Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle, and this is the latest album spotlight, and I'm kind of doing something a little bit different this week for the album spotlight feature. I'm kind of dividing it up into 3 videos focusing on 3 different but related albums in my opinion. So the first one of these 3, I'm going to be talking today about George Harrison and his album All Things Must Pass. In this series, I'm going to be talking about 3 of the most notable Beatles solo albums. I'm a huge Beatles fanatic. I love the Beatles. My dad is a huge Beatles freak. You know, he loves Beatles and he shared them with me. It's kind of like the first band I really knew and loved back when I was a young kid, because that's all my dad played around the house. And he bought me the red and blue, compilation albums when I was young, and I'd listen to those to death. I still have them in my collection, all scratched up and listened to a million times over. But I love those albums. And then, of course, that led me to go through the whole Beatles catalog. But something I've never really done too much of before is delve into the solo albums post-Beatles era. After Let It Be and the band broke up, they released a lot of solo material throughout the years. And it's just something I haven't really paid enough attention to, apparently, because there's a lot of good material in there. I do think overall, I will say that I think the Beatles as a whole, there's something special. There's a magic when you put those 4 guys together into one package. I think the Beatles is much bigger than, each individual member by themselves. So I don't really feel as much affection and affinity for these solo records as I do for the Beatles catalog, which I think there's just a magic, I think with the greatest bands, what happens is you combine these different members who have different personalities, come in with different strengths, different, feels, different styles, different writing styles, and sometimes they just kind of meld together in this perfect fashion. And I think that's kind of what happened with the Beatles. And so listening through a lot of this solo work, it's sometimes a bit hit or miss for me, but there's certain albums that really kind of stand the test of time and are really strong, and I think this is a great example of one. And this is George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. I got it on what brought this to my attention is the new 50th anniversary release here. So this came out in 1970, I believe, as a big triple album, and so now we've got a big celebration here of the album in its 50th anniversary. Really love this package. This is just the 3 LP version. I know there was lots of different, varieties, different bigger packages and stuff, but I just settled for the 3 LP kind of original version of the album. And I listened to it and I've really been loving it. It's a box here. I don't know if I want to get too far into like the inside of the box here, but this is kind of what it looks like inside with some of the album credits and stuff on this end. And then you just got everything kind of laying in here in this box. Of course, you got the main booklet here with all the different, pictures and so forth, and some kind of notes about the 2020 makes of the album, the 50th anniversary makes. And then this kind of album sleeves kind of have these lyrics printed on them, and of course they house the vinyl itself, which is inside. So just a pretty cool package, kind of this box set vibe. But I was listening to this and just really appreciating it. I don't know if I'd ever really listened to this album in full before this listen right now. I knew several tracks from it, like My Sweet Lord and What Is Life and Isn't It a Pity. They all sounded familiar to me, and I knew these from just listening to music throughout my lifetime. But it was cool to hear it in the full album format. And this is just a fantastic album. There's so much material. It's a big, lengthy project and kind of ambitious to do post-Beatles, like right after the Beatles breaking up. But it's just such a great work and shows George Harrison kind of stepping into the spotlight after being a little bit kind of in the background with the Beatles, perhaps. I feel like the pairing of Lennon and McCartney is probably what gets the most focus. But all of George Harrison's contributions to the Beatles are some of my favorite stuff. His solo, not solo, but his songs that he wrote for the band are just all really great, and he's such an important part of that stew that I think he's a little bit underrated from that. But this is a cool album because it kind of puts him out in the spotlight, and he's joined by a lot of different notable musicians and friends of his. Bob Dylan has a lot of feature on this album, kind of as a co-writer on I'd Have You Anytime, and then kind of as an inspiration for some of the lyrics of other songs as well. If Not For You is another Dylan penned song here as well, with kind of that laid back folky vibe that he's known for. But there's a lot of great musicians on this. Billy Preston is here. There's, I believe, Ringo plays drums on some of it, and just a lot of different artists coming together and really capturing something special on this album. Just kind of going through some of the moments that stood out to me. I really loved just the first side. Just every song was really strong. Have You Anytime is a great, gentle ballad, kind of talking about this relationship between Beatles and Bob Dylan, and it's kind of interesting to see how closely they were aligned. I'll admit firsthand, I'm not really a Bob Dylan fan necessarily. Just an artist I haven't really grown to love totally yet. But I appreciate his place in rock history and how important he is to the genre and to songwriting in general. So don't get me wrong, but just his music just isn't really my favorite necessarily. But I like kind of some of his contributions here. My Sweet Lord is just a total classic, beautiful Beatles-inspired number with an uplifting chorus and great vocals. Just a definite, and it kind of embraces his spirituality. It's in praise of the Hindu god Krishna, definitely important to him, and kind of gives his views about religion, as a matter of fact. Wah Wah is so great, just with that wah wah guitar, and just a fun rocker, even some nice horns kind of coming into it. And Isn't It a Pity is a beautiful, slower song that kind of feels like it could fit on a later Beatles album, like the White Album or Abbey Road. Just a really beautiful song with his slide guitar and some great strings and kind of a bigger production. It's reprised later on the album. What Is Life is a great track, a great rocker. I know it because Morris Portnoy and George kind of covered it, so I heard it there, but it's a great track here. And so it just continues on that way. Behind That Locked Door is a nice laid-back kind of country-flavored song. Let It Down has big horns and a great groove and gets more laid back in the verses. A cool feel. It was one of my kind of favorites as I was listening through, a song that I just wasn't familiar with and just really struck me. And I love Beware of Darkness, which starts out side 3. Spock's Beard covered this track. Just has that classic kind of Abbey Road Beatles vibe, and I love the Spock's Beard cover of it. They really prog it up and do a great job with it. Apple Scruffs is a cool folky track with some harmonica, acoustic guitar and vocals. Nice ballad with the Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp. And, it just continues on from there. All Things Must Pass, the title track, is a beautiful track, a highlight of the album to me, with some great strings and slide guitar. I Dig Love is a great, fun, groovy track. So it's a cool, eclectic mixture of a lot of different things that I think really blend well and create a great album. The final vinyl is this kind of collection of jams in the studio, which is kind of a cool feature. So to me, there's kind of the main album and then kind of this bonus LP that features these more jam works, which isn't usually my typical thing. I appreciate the work it took in the studio to do it and so forth, but it's just when I listen to music, I prefer the studio tracks. But I appreciate the musicianship, and tacking this on kind of towards the end of the album is really a cool touch. So just really love this album. I thought it's definitely one of the best post-Beatles Beatle related solo albums. I think it's really magical and really cool and kind of a good snapshot of that time period. And as part of the project, I listened to several other George Harrison albums around this one, and later in his career, partially to make I create these Spotify playlists. I'm creating one giant one for just all Beatles solo stuff, but I try to listen to all their albums kind of around this period and pull out the tracks that spoke to me and that I can include on that playlist. And I was enjoying a lot of different tracks from his other works, but I feel like this is really his seminal work. This is way beyond, to me, all of his other works. I think this album really speaks to who he is as an artist and just puts together all his strengths into one just super great album. So that's how I feel about All Things Must Pass. Really great. Please comment about your thoughts on the album or any George Harrison tracks. I'd also be curious to see what your favorite George Harrison songs are. You know, maybe I will throw them into my playlist that I was talking about. So thank you guys so much. Next, I'm going to delve into another Beatles solo album by John Lennon. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that feature, and that you'll enjoy this kind of style of these kind of short, different videos about these defining albums through the Beatles solo catalog. So please subscribe if you like what I do here, and please just keep enjoying the music. That's what it's all about. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.